Hi boys and girls, this is Unit 6, Lesson 19, Expanding and Factoring. So we're going to expand to write an equivalent expression of negative a fourth times negative 8x plus 12y. So I'm taking negative 1 times negative 8x, which would give me a positive 8, and 8 divided by 4 is 2, so this would give me 2x plus, a negative times a positive is going to be a negative. So negative 1 times 12 is 12, and 12 divided by 4 is 3, so that would be negative 3y. So I have 2x plus negative 3y, or you could have a 2x minus 3y. It would be the same thing. Okay, and then we're going to factor to write an equivalent expression of 36a minus 16. So here's where we talked about using our rectangles. So you have 36a minus 16. Okay, what do they have in common? Well, they don't have a variable in common. So I need to think about what is divisible by 36 and 16. We could use 4. 4 goes into both those numbers. So I'm thinking about 4 times what number gives me 36, and that would be 9. So 4 times 9a, because I do have a variable a there. And then 4 times what number gives me negative 16? Well, that would be a negative 4. So when I rewrite this, 4 is going to go on the outside, and then I have my parentheses, and 9a minus 4. 4 is not the only number that's divisible here. 2 could also be divisible, so you could also have 2 times 18a minus 8. Depends on which one you used. Okay, 2. Lynn missed math class on the day they worked on expanding and factoring, and Karen is helping Lynn catch up. Lynn understands that expanding is using the distributive property, but she doesn't understand what factoring is or why it works. How can Karen explain factoring to Lynn? So he could tell her that factoring is the distributive property in the other direction. So instead of expanding a product to a sum of terms, factoring is taking those sum of terms and making it into a product by looking for common factors. So we could say, look for common factors. To be written outside of the parentheses. And that's what we did up here. So Lynn asked Karen how the diagrams of boxes help with factoring. What should Karen tell Lynn about the boxes? So he could tell her that the expression in each box is the product of the expression to the left of the big rectangle and the expression above the box, just as the area of a rectangle is length times width. So he could also give her an example. So he could say, say we have 2 times x minus 3. I could create my boxes. 2 would be my height, x would be a base, and negative 3 would be a base. So then I would take 2 times x, which is 2x, and 2 times negative 3, which is negative 6. So what I have here is 2x minus 6 is my expanded, and this is my factored. So you could tell her you go the other way, because it is talking about factoring, sorry. Say we have 3x plus 9. So we put those in our boxes, 3x and a positive 9. So I'm thinking, what do these have in common? 3 is a common multiple. So 3 times what number gives me 3x? Well, that would just be x. And 3 times what number gives me 9? That would be 3. So when I rewrite this here, I have 3 times x plus 3 is going to give me this. Lynn asked Karen to help her factor the expression negative 4xy minus 12xz plus 20xw. How can Karen use this example to Lynn to help Lynn understand factoring? Well, that's worded differently. So we could go ahead and do this where we have 3 boxes. So this is negative 4xy, negative 12xz, and a positive 20xw. We could say that all these have x in common, but they are also multiples of 4. So we could say 4x could be what everything is multiplied by. So 4x times what gives me a negative 4xy? Well, that would be a negative y. 4x times what number gives me negative 12xz? Will that be a negative 3z? 4x times what number gives me 20xw? Will that be 5w? So when we rewrite this, we have 4x parentheses times negative y minus 3z plus 5w. K3, complete the equation with numbers that makes the expression on the right side of the equal sign equivalent to the expression on the left side. So I have 75a plus 25b equals blank times blank a plus b. Well, 25 would have to be times b, so this has to be 25. And then 25 times what with a gives me 75, that would be 3. So this is 25 times 3a times 25 times b would give me this. Okay, Elena makes her favorite shade of purple paint by mixing 3 cups blue paint, 1.5 cups red paint, half cup of white paint, and Elena has 2/3 cups of white paint. Assuming she has enough red paint and blue paint, how much purple paint can Elena make? So for this, I'm going to make a table. So I have blue, red, and white. Blue, I had 3. Red, I had 1.5. And white, I had half. And I'm trying to get to 2/3 is all she has. So 0.5 times what gives me 2/3? Well, that would be 1 1/3 or 4/3. And I could do this by going backwards here. So I could take 2 divided by 3, which is 0.6 repeating, and divide that by 0.5. Do you see how that gives me 1 1/3, which is also 4/3? This is equivalent to 1 1/3. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 more is 4. So this is what I would have to multiply by. So I'm taking 1.5 times 4 1/3, which is 2. 3 times 4 1/3, which is 4. How much purple paint can she make? Well, I'm going to add all together. 4 plus 2 is 6, plus 2/3, so she can make 6 2/3. Oops, cups. Alright, how much blue paint and red paint will Elena need to use with the 2/3 of cup of white paint? Well, she'll need 4 cups of blue and 2 cups of red. And that's what I have here in my table. Okay, 5. Solve each equation. Alright, A. Negative 1/8 D minus 4 equals negative 3/8. So split it in 2. I'm going to add 4 to each side here. Negative 1/8 D equals, let's see, 3 divided by 8 is 3.75. So I have a negative 0.375 plus 4 more is 3.625. I could have also changed this to a fraction, which I would have to times these by 8. So it'd be negative 3/8 plus 8 times 4 is 32 times 8. All right, negative 3 plus 32, 29 eighths. 29 divided by, 8 is 3.625. So I'm going to change this, so we're still working with fractions here, the 29 eighths. Now fractions I have to multiply by the reciprocal, so I'm going to multiply this by negative 8 over 1 times negative 8 over 1. That leaves me with d equals 29 times the negative 8 is negative 232. 8 times 1 is 8. And that's simplified, divided that by 8, it's negative 29. So d equals negative 29. Well, that was a lot just for A there. All right, B, negative 1/4 m plus 5 equals 16. Subtract 5 from both sides. Negative 1/4 m equals 11 times by the reciprocal. M equals negative 44. That one was simple enough. Okay, C. 10b plus negative 45 equals negative 43 plus 45 to both sides. 10b equals 2 divided by 10. b equals 1/5. D. Negative 8 times y minus 1.25 equals 4. So I'm apply the distributive property here. Negative 8y plus 8 times 1.25 is 10 equals 4 minus 10 on both sides. Negative 8y equals 10 minus 4 is 6, that would be negative 6. Divide both sides by negative 8. It's going to turn positive. 2 goes into both those numbers, 3 and 4. Y equals 3/4. Okay, let's see if I can fit E down here. E. 3.2 times S plus 10 equals 32. So I'm going to divide both sides by 3.2. S plus 10 equals 32 divided by 3.2 is 10. Subtract 10. S equals 0. Okay, you should be about that quick too when you use distributive property and you're solving equations. Alright, select all the inequalities that have the same solutions as negative 4x is less than 20. When I solve negative 4x is less than 20, I'm dividing by negative 4. So x would have to be greater than negative 5. So f would definitely be 1. A is negative x is less than 5. That would be the opposite of this, so A would work. If I divide both sides by 4, x would be greater than negative 5, so B would work. If I do that here, it's going to be less than, that's not going to work. This is less than, that doesn't work. And that doesn't have a negative 5, so that doesn't work. Alright, please let me know if you have any questions.